Hello, dear friends and comrades. Live your favorite program, 60 Minutes, about the most important thing, the most spectacular footage of the special operation zone, the city of Dnepropetrovsk. Today, locals are loudly posting videos of the Russian attack on a Ukrainian military plant. In this video alone, you can count 5 spans of the traditionally combined missiles. The Russian black geranium managed to capture well against the background of the feeling of the sky. Above the city rise huge clouds of smoke. They can be seen far away. Around the targets of the attack became one of the largest enterprises of Ukraine, the southern machine building plant Yuzhmash. It is considered one of the main manufacturers of military products. It produces, or rather, produced missiles and drones for military use, and also repaired damaged equipment. There is also information about explosions in Kharkov and Zaporozhye. But also at the front, our army made a new breakthrough. Defense assault units occupied the southern part of New York, the former village of Novgorodskoye, and continue to develop the offensive on Torets, which apparently will very soon be renamed back to Virginsk. On the map of the enemy resource, DIP stands, and you can see the scale of the wedging of our units. Another success in the hour yard. The most important stage of the liberation of the city was completed in the Ministry of Defense. Today, it was officially said that the unit of the group of troops Kuk is completely. They cleared the Novi area, the very Canal microdistrict, for which there have been fierce battles in recent months. Separately, of course, I would like to congratulate and convey warm greetings to the Ivanovo 98th Division in the DB, which knocked out the dry cleaners from the multi-story building. It was the paratroopers from the 98th Guards Division who today raised the Russian flag in the Avdiivsky direction. Soldiers of the Group of Forces Center burned another American tank Abrams. As can be seen, the strike was carried out in a high-precision Krasnopole from an M100S howitzer. The collapse of the defense continues. Krasnogorovsk military propagandist Butusov today called on Sirsky to immediately remove the brig of the 59th Brigade there, which was responsible for the defense of the city. It is important to do this as soon as possible. In the sense that Zelensky himself is trying to remove Sirsky. Today it turned out that Zelensky is also tired of Prime Minister Shmyhal. This is reported by sources of Ukrainian Truth. In general, the front is cracking at the seams, and a new spider bite has begun in the Ukrainian bank. This, of course, is a fire on Evleni themselves. Ukraine will not be officially invited to the alliance due to corruption. The Telegraph writes about this. That's what they said. Deal with your theft. Otherwise, we don't need you cynically. But honestly, that is, it turns out to be 10 years here. Ukraine was introduced on a leash with endless open doors to NATO, bridges to NATO, and so on until the end. And now suddenly they admitted that Ukraine is such a sharpening of the underbelly of Russia, and 500,000 dead. The Germans don't care. Even cooler was Hillary Clinton's grandmother in a conversation with Russian pranksters. I believe he is communicating with Poroshenko. Clinton spoke another truth. It turns out that for America to re-elect Biden, Ukraine must not only defend itself, but also launch a new offensive. That's it. Relations with Ukraine. Mrs. Clinton also said that the conversation about the new tranche will be relevant only after the breakthrough of the Russian line of defense. Well, I'm Trump's cherry, his formula for peace. The police building shares Donald's reflections on the conditions of peace in Ukraine. One of the points of a possible deal with Russia is not NATO expansion at the expense of Georgia and Ukraine. Trump also thinks about possible territorial. Of course, this is not a solution yet, it is only an option. Trump himself is also not president, but the trend, as they say, is obvious. Zelensky Trump will also answer the words of the overdue, Bloomberg reports. Zelensky says Trump should immediately and publicly present his plan and explain what exactly awaits Ukraine. Well, in terms of cynicism. The BBC explained what Ukrainians are fighting for. In addition to joining NATO for the gay parade, inclusiveness in Ukraine is lame. Ukrainian militant homosexuals say. They say that in the ranks of the Vysoy are not happy to fight not only Putin's army, but also Ukrainian disgusting homophobia. We should push it. The results of the French parliamentary elections seem to be worrying all over Europe. This is how elections, for example, imagine cartoonist British The Telegraph. French politicians participate in the famous Tour de France race ahead with expressive forms on a bicycle rides to Marine Le Pen. Following the results of the first round, her party National Unity won, gaining more than 33%. Marine is followed by the leader of the New Popular Front, Jean-Luc Mélenchon, and almost 28% on the red Soviet T-shirt, the Soviet self. Closing the line, look, out of breath, generous, angry Macron on a children's bicycle. In the first round, he got a ridiculous 20%. Only his Berlin comrade Paul Scholz is worried about Manuel now. The Chancellor admitted in an interview with the DPO agency that he is so worried that in the daily mode, after the defeat of Emmanuel, he writes a saving SMS message to his soul. France itself did not say that Macron is answering. At the same time, on the verge of political catastrophe, if the National Union receives an absolute majority, it will be able to nominate its own prime minister and block any decisions. For example, sending weapons or troops to war frightened. Prime Minister Tallinn, in an evening address to the nation, called on citizens to vote no longer for preferred candidates, but simply to vote against LEP. I know that in order to eliminate the division of votes from the second round of elections, the so-called 3 seats of candidates are being removed for money that could spoil Macron's electoral picture. Well, that is an agreement, or whatever they call democracy. They are ready to do anything just to prevent LEP and her 28-year-old protege Bardalak from coming to power. But even here it was not without a Russian trace. National Association. You will not believe this, of course, the creature of the Kremlin. The manual is now being dispersed by everyone without exception, not by false media. In Russia, there are 40 temperature records in the Volgograd region during the day, plus 41. Anomalous heat in southern Russia will reach its peak. The weekend will be plus 45. In Rostov-on-Don, the thermometer left on the sunny side has already shown something unthinkable today. Look at plus 67. On Wednesday, the zone of extreme overheating was 2/3 of the territory of European Russia, where 8 out of 16 cities with a population of 1 million are located, and 60% of the population of our country live. In Moscow today, it was also really hot. Already at 08 Ozara, it was plus 30, at the peak of the day, plus 35. Due to the heat, the tower crane cabin on Vyborgskaya Street caught fire. Another tragic case at a height of 32 floors is almost 90 meters above the ground. From the heat died a crane operator. According to rescuers, the cabin was so hot that it was impossible to touch it to try to open the door. A man's heart stopped from stuffiness. In the daytime heat, the so-called Egyptian nights are also added. The temperature in the capital will not fall below 24 degrees. Even at night, forecasters warn that such abnormally hot weather is dangerous for the body. The body simply does not have time to recover, even in sleep. Hypertensive patients are advised to stay near the fans of air conditioners in the country, work until 11, drink water, and rest. Well, I mean, it sounds like varnish. Russian sailors continue their Caribbean cruise. A detachment of ships from the Northern Fleet arrived in the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. The carrier of hypersonic zircons, the frigate Admiral Gorshkov, and the medium sea tanker Akademik Pashin made a call at the port of La Guaira. There, the sailors will rest after completing the tasks of the long-distance voyage, which began on May 17th. Get acquainted, as reported by our Ministry of Defense, with the national cuisine of local attractions. There are a few days after which Sevrom will continue its mission in the Atlantic Ocean. The Americans naturally tense up. This is their underbelly. Are we literally going to leave zircons there on the DoD website?